usual reading.
Yes, so we're opening the 5-pack meeting at 7:02 on Wednesday, January 19th. And the rules of conduct for a hybrid virtual meeting are: this is a web-based call, so we're operating under the following procedures. This session is being both video and audio recorded. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will generally be keeping video on themselves throughout the meeting. If a member of the public creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected from the meeting upon recommendation of the staff or the chair. For public input before the meeting, please email your comments to publicinput@columbiact.org within 24 hours before the meeting.
Thank you. With that, I call the meeting to order. Can you do the change, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Guys, of citizens, anybody in person, do we have anything?
Nothing in the chat, and we did not receive any public input.
Approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as recorded. I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are you voting?
Aye.
Oh, man. I thought COVID affected the lung, not the brain is coming. Okay. Moving right along. Correspondence, anything in the package of correspondence that keeps anybody's interest? Raise any questions? Jeff, I know you usually have something, so wait until you find it.
That's where I'm going. Okay, let's see. Looks like it's a. Anyway, I'll just ask a question. Have there been any additional audits or kind of COVID funds, and do we expect them?
So we've gotten a couple FOI requests, which I haven't had a chance to send all the receipts and everything in. We haven't had an audit from the state, but I believe that is coming down the road. Right now, we're gonna have to report the final spending of the old CAM funds. And then I think they may be, I think they haven't confirmed anything about an audit, but I'm sure it's coming.
Okay. Next question I have is the regular meeting minutes for the Columbia Board of Selectmen. We're talking about joining the AHM. AHM is a full membership. Is there an associated cost with becoming a full member?
It hasn't been discussed in any detail with the board of selectmen. It's merely a request from AHM at the moment. And Dick might want to mention what was discussed in youth services.
I can speak a little bit to it, because of my working at DCF. I know a lot about youth services. The reason that they're looking for Columbia to become full members is simply that there's a lot of mental health issues among youth in all four towns covered by AHM. And it's reached a point where they even come close to being considered a crisis. I know some of the details, because I'm on the juvenile review board with AHM. I can't give details because everything there is confidential. But I can say simply that there's cases coming from all four towns, including Columbia, where mental health issues are a factor.
Well,
But is it that they want us to join because there's some kind of fees associated with that?
There would be a fee involved. I mean, I can guess that.
Yeah.
They haven't given it.
I'm sure they'll tell us eventually when we
And
know.
I'm not even sure, I haven't decided whether or not that's the best way to go. I think the issue has to be addressed, but there's different options to do that.
To have a social worker or something.
They have raised that, or made that request in the past, have they not?
I'm sorry?
Haven't they in the past asked Columbia to up our participation?
Not really. Matter of fact, they didn't want to.
Really?
The reason we're not full members, and this goes back to when we first joined, is because all of Andover, Hickman, Malship, and Marlboro share junior high and high school grant.
Right.
And Columbia doesn't. Columbia is not part of the high school and junior high school system. So it just gets really complicated for Columbia to join. At least that was a thought way back in 2008 when we first joined. I guess now what's going on is simply that the issues among youth, the mental health issues among youth, demand some kind of response, and that would be one kind of response.
Thank you.
But there's other ways to look at it too. Other ways to address those issues. So we'll have to see. I mean, there's going to be an ongoing discussion about that among the school system, the board of selectmen, and age.
On the Columbia Board of Selectmen meeting Tuesday, December 21st, down to bottom 7.1 on the animal control officer, Mark. Have you done anything to come up with an idea what it would cost for a new manager, part-time staff, and an automobile?
We're still working on all that. Right now, I'm reaching out to East Haddam to see if they'll, for a small cost, allow the regional vehicles to be used for Columbia as well. And we're negotiating right now with the animal control officer who we hired, Michael Zaki, and his 3 part-timers to give us 24/7 coverage in Columbia.
What kind of activity are we talking about? Animal control, collecting wild animals, dogs, cats?
No, it's
Just
dogs, and it could be wildlife, it's rabbit, and it could be farm animals, but normally with farm animals, we call in the state for assistance. And most of the serious issues involve dog bites, because that official state report has to be issued, and the lawyers immediately call us for copies, and the lawsuits begin.
That's it for my correspondence. Except we didn't have any Board of Ed correspondence at all.
Do we just forget to put them in?
Did you forget to put them in, or they forgot they're doing anything? I'm sure they've been meeting, so I was assuming. That's what I was gonna say, there wasn't any.
They actually canceled Martin Luther King Day meeting, right?
There was no Martin Luther King Day meeting. They canceled the meeting for tonight. That was a budget subcommittee, and the one at the beginning of the month. Why did that get, I think that got canceled because the storm on
Storm.
Friday, they couldn't get the posting
The posting,
in time. So they might
Right.
not be till either, I don't think it's Monday, but it might be early February.
Okay, just.
There were no minutes to include. I checked on the website, and there wasn't any additional ones since last time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's my question.
That it?
And yes,
I don't think it's in the, on the agenda, but you volunteered to.
yeah, I, due to scheduling conflicts and stuff, I haven't made anything like that.
Okay.
For the
Sorry.
officer contract, it's basically done. So
Yeah. Sorry.
I think it's getting through the ratification process and Board of Ed approval at this point. So you missed it.
Okay, moving right along to new business, general budget discussion. First, we have a couple of new people. I thought it might be a good idea to just give an overview of the process. There are a couple of things that govern from the state level, beginning date of the budget process. I believe state law says that our finance people have to deliver a budget to us for review by March 15th. I believe it's March, I'm pretty sure it's March 15th.
Yes,
That doesn't mean we have to meet to review it on March 15th, or it doesn't really set a standard date for reviewing the budget. And at the end of the process, there's a state law that governs when you have to have a budget presented to the public for vote, either through referendum or through a town meeting. And that is what, Mark, is that the third Tuesday in May or something like that?
Second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday in May, so there's a beginning and the end. We addressed that by, in the past, budgets have been delivered almost at home or whatever. And we have a couple of days to look at it, then we start a series of weekly meetings, budget review. And we don't continue with those weekly meetings until we have a budget. One thing that we almost ran into last year, it's not in writing anywhere, but there is an agreement that we reached in years past that if we make any changes to either the Board of Selectmen budget or the Board of Education budget, they have the opportunity to come back the following week and challenge our decisions or present information that we should, that they expect us to take into consideration. So I throw that out to encourage people, if you have any ideas, anything you want to look into, let's get that out early, so we're not stuck at the last meeting making changes, which could do a monthly resolution, extending the process by a week with cuts in the Bev and Mark's time, because they have to post meetings, blah, 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 and be there, create documents, post meetings, and all that. So let's keep that in mind. Again, anything is fair game, but let's do it early, get our ideas out early. There are no dumb ideas, no dumb questions. Turn on the table, and everybody deserves an answer to whatever they throw out. There was also some discussion last year about how much detail we should be looking into. I know that in the past, when I first started here, I asked a ton of questions. I thought if anything was fair, and I still believe that. As long as we present our questions or our issues in a business-like manner, as opposed to anything being personal, then again, I think everything goes. And especially with the Board of Education, one thing that came out, or we keep saying that is not true, is that we are not allowed to make line items cuts to a Board of Ed budget. We can, but it doesn't make any sense for us to do so. Because when we give them their total budget, they can spend it any way they want to, put it back to the line. Having said that, though, I think that if you're reviewing something in the Board of Ed budget and you see a line item that you can't figure out why the funding pattern is the way it is, that is a fair question that you deserve an answer to, and that can factor into what you might suggest we do to the bottom line. Any thoughts on those subjects? Anything I just said? Cover it? Okay. I think I did both of those. We all have the calendar, right? And what I just said, that's what dictated how the calendar was put together. We know when we start, we know when we end, we know that we have a process, that we have weekly meetings until we're done. Okay. Kelly, 8.2, was that your question from last COVID cost update?
If you have any more information about expenditure,
This is what this chart is.
things, yeah.
Last page.
So I try to break it out as best I can. There's been a variety of reimbursements and costs. So first three columns tells you, and it breaks out basically that the first FEMA reimbursement, we got over $25,000. We ended up getting 100%. It was originally 75, and they changed it to 100. So we had to go back. I could go back and calculate reimbursement on that. Then there was the OPM, the first round of the Corona Relief Fund, which is $37,690. We got and it's split between the fire department, the town, the board of ed, just like FEMA. Then FEMA gave us an additional chance to get some more money back at 100%, so that was another $4,200. It was, the board of ed didn't have any at the time because they were using OPM, their corona relief funds and all that, so they were all set, so it was just the town and the fire department, because that was all that qualified. The board of ed, what they spent, we couldn't put into FEMA. Then the board of ed got over $144,000 in ESSER funds, which is kind of highlighted below in number 5, where they got money for technology, they got something for special ed, $20,000 to help with, I think it was behavior issues. And then there was staffing, $101,000, which they're using throughout this year for just to mitigate the learning loss issue there. They also got another $460,000 Board of Ed did, and that went to, again, the staffing, additional cleaning, a lot of their supplies and stuff. So that took care of that. And that all added up. Then we had the American Relief Funds that came in. So the town was getting almost 1.6 million. They already got half. In June, we should get the other half. And the Board of Ed, if you look at still in item 5, that 272 is broken out, or they haven't spent that money yet. 195, they're using it next year, the year after, because they're allowed to save it, spend it by 2024. The ARP, there's some IDEA money. I think all the bottom ones, those are all they have till 2023 to spend. I think they're spending the 30,000 definitely this year. The rest of it they might save for future. And then the second to last column was the second OPM CRF funding of $39,851,851. We had to spend that by December 31. We did. I wanted to make sure we didn't have to give any of the money back. So when that was again used and split between the fire department and the Board of Ed. So as you can see, the grand total of all our reimbursements that are coming in future right now is $2.2 million for the town.
That's great. So perennial question, if the Board of Ed is getting an extra almost 600,000 that they can spend over the next 3 years, I guess, is that part of their actual budget, or is there some special budget that is not
So-
related to their budget?
A lot of this coronavirus funding had to be outside of the budget.
Oh, good. Is that right? I mean,
It's separate. It's separate.
because it doesn't impact MBR.
No. So the SR funds, some of those, which is paying for staffing,
That would.
it won't necessarily, because these monies, the grant funds are netted out prior to the town appropriation. So it won't impact MBR at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have to take it out. It's all grant funding. Same thing like in the past, all their IDAs, their title funds, that is netted out of the town appropriation. So it's the true town figure that's MBR.
All right.
So just a hypothetical, if they're getting all this extra money, are they going, and I know we haven't heard from them yet, are they going to be coming to us looking for increases in their budget? When they're
I
getting,
think Maria's trying to come in pretty flat, based on my conversations with her. She has had turnover this year, which is probably helpful, has been a little helpful with the budget. We're looking definitely, she understands that, we're trying to keep things flat, especially there's a reval year, we're not sure all that, what that's going on either. So she's gonna try to keep it as steady as possible, and try not to increase. I mean, that's her goal every year. But then again, the last year or two, it's been a little crazy trying to keep up with things, so. I think she's definitely looking again at the budget closer, so. Her goal is not to, if there is an increase, we're trying to minimize it, but again, just so you know, she's negotiating a bus contract. The Eastcon Food Services, she just got through the I'm not sure how that came out, the non-cert contract. I think the teachers are set, the administrators are set. And then again, it's always the special ed.
I understand that.
Yeah, so I think,
Card always will be.
yeah, so I think the special ed's coming in okay. I don't think there's been any surprises yet, so she's gonna try her best to try to keep it flat.
Thank you.
Well, that reminded me, I meant to, especially for the benefit of the two new guys, are you two familiar with the minimum budget requirement? Because it affects the Board of Ed budget?
No.
Well, Kelly's gonna give you a quick message.
In a nutshell, when you set a budget for 1 year, you can't, the next year, you can't go any lower than that budget. So if your budget was 18.2 million, the next year you can't have a $17.5 million budget. You have to have a minimum. And there are tiny little tweaks that you can do, like if you lose students or something, but it's very, very minimal. So we're always concerned when we have, like 1 year, we had a huge, $250,000 special ed for one child that skewed the budget, but we couldn't just take that out the next year when the child moved out of town. You had to keep that same money in the budget. So we're always worried about anything that goes into the budget that artificially inflates it.
And unfortunately, the State Board of Ed is, they think throwing money at the
Yeah, I
at the
think
budget
money's a
is the way
solution.
to do. We even had our superintendent of schools write a letter to say, we don't need this money this year. And part of it also that if the superintendent or the school board, local school board supports or doesn't mind a budget reduction, then the commissioner, I believe it is, commissioner can let us reduce our budget. So again, our board of ed said we don't need this money, superintendent wrote a letter, and they still said, no, you can't reduce your budget. You gotta keep it up there.
The State Board of Ed doesn't want to set any precedent. If they do it for one town, then they gotta do it for every town, I think, but they're terrible.
Counter that, we set a non-lapsing account. So the Board of Ed has leftover money, they're not incentivized to spend it. And they can roll it over with the approval of MyPath into an account where it'll sit there in case an emergency child came in that needed services, we'd have money set aside.
Or
So
other
that's,
emergencies.
or
not
other
just-
emergencies.
Not just special ed.
right, emergency expenditures. So it's been working well with this way we're doing it.
Thanks, Cal. What do we do, COVID?
Yep.
American Relief Funds update? Or did you cover that also?
Kind of covered that, yeah.
Well, the other thing would be the update on the projects, how we're at that.
Yeah, and huge gratitude that you brought to bed for keeping track of all this. It's been a nightmare. With
I'm not done yet.
tracking all these expenditures and reporting, and thanks to, was it
Shopping.
West Hartford
Shopping.
that didn't spend the money properly, so now we're being audited and
Oh,
applied.
West Haven.
West Haven? West Haven, right. So that's been a nightmare. With American Relief Funds, I just gave something to Ernie. The Treasury has issued final rulings that have expanded or relaxed the three major buckets, but Bev and I still haven't even had time to meet to
There,
agree on what it all means.
there is, have it, the final rule has been published, and it is like a 432 page document. I didn't think you wanted me to.
No.
There is a shortened version, kind of a condensed version, about 40 pages. If anybody would like it, or I can just send it up off my background if you want to see it.
Just do that.
I read it and I sat through the same webinar 3 times. It's kind of okay, it's kind of dry, but if I can get the copy of the PowerPoint, I'll send that off also. I don't know if it's the recording, but I've been having a hard time finding the recording, because it's so enticing. And someone installed it, it's right, it's better than YouTube, I think. And so, so I can send that out to everybody, so you have it. There is another webinar tomorrow. So I'll see what that's like, it's at 1 o'clock. So,
CCM doing one? 'Cause they tend to
Yeah,
make
so I
things
sat
more
through theirs.
understandable than.
I sent them CCMs and they mainly said basically if it's a normal municipal expense, it could qualify. So, they had a different opinion than Bev's been getting from the finance side.
There is more leeway on some of the spending. One of the things is they keep talking about revenue loss, which the town did not have. But there is a list in that 400-page document I gotta find, in there. And so there is some leeway. I think it has to do with the government services. You may be able to, some of the things that might, the town manager might be able to apply, but I think I will probably, once we get a list, refer it to this representative we've met with to see if they agree with it before we proceed, because I'd rather get a second opinion than we do something and then find out. But I think there's gonna be, they kept saying in the webinars I saw that there's a lot more leeway than we had in the past.
So because a lot of small towns don't have revenue loss, because we don't have giant revenue generating machines other than property tax. It says the Treasury has simplified the program for small localities seeking a revenue recapture through the option to elect a standard allowance of 10 million for revenue loss rather than calculating the revenue loss through the full formula. So what they're saying is everyone has a $10 million revenue loss. So assume that, and if you want to buy things based on a $10 million revenue loss, go for it. But that's my simplified understanding. Bev doesn't agree.
I'm being cautious.
So we're still trying to figure this out.
I'm trying to be a little cautious on it because I think if, I don't know if that works if we don't have a revenue loss. That's my concern.
But I think that's why they did it, because they said, all
It's a
right,
de minimis amount.
minimum is 10 million for everybody. Cities that have 500 million revenue loss, you're in your own category.
Yeah, I think, I want to get a more clarification on that before we.
Well, how much will we have to document? I mean,
Well, and I think the documentation is a lot easier now too, if they relaxed the justification rules, which would lead into, I think it'll make it easier to, with all the capital we cut out of the last budget, to use American Rescue Plans to actually fund a lot of those capital needs we have in the town. And soften the blow on our budget going out.
no, if you oversimplify this, they say, we assume you had a $10 million revenue loss. Can we say, yep, we did, so we don't have to,
Nothing to substantiate, we did.
Right, we start with that as a minimum and then,
And only have to substantiate if we're gonna claim more than 10. I would
well,
think.
we didn't get $10 million, so that would account for,
everything we would use it on.
Well, I think we'd be limited to how much is what we're receiving.
Right.
Yeah, so like we would say we're getting 1.6, and that's the max you can put in revenue loss. But again, we need to get some clarification on that before we move forward.
But in the early days, before these regs came out, there was talk about you can't use it for tax reduction. So the town couldn't reduce its tax burden and still use ARP money. Is that still the case?
Well, if I buy a dump truck I need, now revenue loss might easier qualify a brand new dump truck.
It has to go on services, not necessarily, if you use the money on government services versus replacement.
Right, but I'm saying, I mean, not that we would, but what if we wanted to reduce taxes by 1%?
I'm not,
You can't
I don't
do
think you can do that. I don't think
That's what I had heard that
Yes,
originally that was.
It's originally not designed for that.
No, not designed for it, but couldn't we still do it? And not use those monies to build rec park or whatever, I don't care, but separately reduce the taxes. I think what they said was you couldn't do that, even if you otherwise would be justified in reducing taxes, you still couldn't. If you were gonna use ARP money for anything.
well, it sounds like,
But let's say 3/4 of our people left the town and we didn't need to spend as much money. We couldn't even reduce taxes then. You know, our kids all left. We couldn't reduce taxes if we were using ARP money, even if otherwise it's a prudent thing to do. I think
I
that's what the
haven't
rule
heard
is.
that. I haven't heard that argument.
well, I think a lot of stuff, I'm here tonight is, expresses the fears that we all had when there was a total lack of rules.
Right.
So we were sort of guessing,
At the last one.
yeah, the last budget. And now we have a little more clarity, but we're never gonna get everything well defined. But it sounds like Mark and Bev are a lot more comfortable than they might have been a year ago.
Well, to even make it a little better, John Assessor thinks that the latest he heard was the almost 300,000 he thought we'd have to spend on the Hop River Bridge might be waived, as we don't have to do a contribution with the federal bridge program
Oh, nice.
I think it's still better for infrastructure,
Nice.
through the infrastructure.
the infrastructure bill that went through, because it is
So-
for all bridges and roads, so we probably,
So that,
so he needs to get more clarification.
yeah, that was just an email I just saw, that's all, we're like, yay, but we haven't got anything concrete. But it could be another on the upside of, we have money put aside that maybe we could repurpose.
Especially because we were told that the cost, we may not have enough in the budget.
Like we were, just last week, we were looking at increasing our put aside of $70,000 more for that bridge to the increased cost estimates.
Okay, we're sort of easing into the next agenda item, so we might as well keep going. Long range planning update. And
So because of COVID, we're behind in our budget process. I'm just meeting with all my departments starting tomorrow, Friday, and next week. So I'm waiting. What I've been getting is that we're trying to really keep our budgets more in line with what they were last year, and trying to do capital expenditures through ARPA, any of the big ones.
yeah, I guess that gets me back to, I can't even remember when you gave us the document, but you had split out, you had put together a document of the capital projects and split, or at least tagged the ones you thought would be paid for with relief funds. I don't know if we got any further with that, or was that something that we will have?
You will have, after I meet with all the three big departments, which are Public Works, Facilities, Rec, and Fire Department, four. I've been working with the fire department, we've been chipping away, we've already authorized in the first release of ARPA, 471,000.
That's what
And
this project listed.
yes, so all those projects are in works right now, they're underway. And fire department just gave me another project they'd like considered for ARPA, which is a upgraded phone system. And they have quotes. And
Who's that for? Fire?
fire department phone system. And also we're waiting on the results of the two grants that they requested for two pieces of equipment. So we'll wait to hear from that as well. And then that will help us decide where we go with the ARPA.
Okay, do you remember when you gave us that spreadsheet? You know the one I'm talking about?
Yes, so that was,
No, I'm just thinking of two new people, whether they have that already.
oh,
I think it was during the summer.
probably. So what I'll do is by next week, I'll update that and get it out to the board in
Okay.
advance of the next meeting. So you'll have something. to
Yeah, I
review.
just want to sort of be on board.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. Our auditors are sick.
So, yeah, they, so in the last couple of weeks, I guess they had COVID issues. So I'm hoping to have the draft audit, they said by the end of this week, so that by next week I can get it finalized. And the plan is still to get it submitted by the end of the month, so I said, I mean, at least a day or so to go through that thing and get it finalized. So once that gets done, once they file it, I should get the audit report, and I'll make sure I get it emailed to everyone.
Yeah, how does that work? I guess it's due December 31st,
Yeah.
and
We filed an extension,
you file an extension, which is fairly routine, but they only extend it for
a month, but we can keep extending, I'd have to put in another request for OPM.
without penalty.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep, so the plan is to try to get it in. It's there now, it's just they got behind me, unfortunately with COVID, so. So they said they're gonna get it to me, so I'll follow up with them by Monday if I don't hear anything.
okay, the election of officers, current officers are, I am Chair Kelly and Dick, our co-chair. Open discussion.
I'm gonna start with a nomination right off the bat, nomination. Bernie Sharp to stay as acting chairman. Or chairman,
Second that.
30. No way.
Any other nominations or comments or?
He's crazy enough to stay.
I have one quick comment, and that is something Bernie's been doing this job a long time, and he's done, I think, an excellent job.
And I think, Art and Steve, you're new, but you've seen today how knowledgeable he is. He attends all the preparatory meetings. He's always on point. He knows what he's talking about. He knows the history, and I've been very appreciative of the guidance he's given us all of these years, and I would love for him to stay as chair if he's willing to.
Making me blush. Okay, if there are no other nominations, then I will close the nomination. All those in favor of the only nominee? Aye. I'll vote for myself. I have to find. Okay, vice chair, we currently have two.
I'd like to, begin. I want to nominate Jeff Reeves for vice chair.
Second that.
We have one nomination. Are there others? Sounds like you're being gracious.
I'd like to nominate.
Hmm?
I'd like to nominate the sector for co-vice, if he's willing to serve.
I think, just one comment, I think sharing vice chair with Kelly worked well. And I think it made us, helped us work well together. But I know Jeff has been vice chair in the past, and I think you would do a very good job too. So I would decline being vice chair. But thank you.
Okay, well, seems like we have one nomination, and I thank you for being here, and well, both our previous vice chairs. I think last year was the first time that I was ever late for meetings. Challenged. Anyway, having one nomination, all those in favor of the only nominee? Aye. And we're off and running for the next year. Throw the floor open as usual for any random comments or thoughts or anything you guys think we should be looking into.
I think I said this before, but for anyone who wants to come, I know we have the February meeting, and then the March meeting is gonna start the budget, right?
Right.
So the February meeting is really the only one where people can come and present something just before the budget season starts. So if anybody has, in your talking with your departments or whatever, if people have something that they want to say or get on the record before we jump into the budget season, I think the February meeting would be the time to do it if they want to come on the agenda.
Yeah. And again, back to the two new people. Do you guys have copies of last year's budget?
Yes.
Okay, no, Mark usually does a good job of giving people that kind of stuff. But that would be a good time if you go through the document and have questions and don't understand how things flow. We'd be more than willing to walk you through it.
And Stephen, I know at one point Judy came in when she was new, and Bev and I'd be happy to sit down with anybody, and kind of sit down and answer questions on what different categories are. And,
Yeah,
it's a lot of information coming your way.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna have a million questions. Right now, I'm so new, I don't know what I don't know.
That's fine. Like I said, I think we're a good group, we're patient, and we all know a little bit of something, and not necessarily a lot, not necessarily everything, so. But it eventually comes out. Anything else?
One thing I wanted to mention, or ask about actually, because last year, towards the end of the year, we had talked about the presentation of the budget information, and Kelly had suggested, and I agreed that it would be more informative, not just have the variance from budget, but the variance from the previous year. And I just wanted to see if that was happening or going to happen. when
So
information is
what's gonna show in the budget document is for last year, it'll be the original budget. And it'll show the ending costs, so you can see where there's discrepancy. I don't know if I'll be able to fit a variance line there, but I can try. And then the current year will show the usual and. So I don't know, I think we just agreed to show the original, right?
Yeah, the
No
proposed as approved and then as actual spent, and we can do the math ourselves, you know,
Yeah.
because it gets too crowded.
Yeah, because it's kind of like,
Putting
so that documents make it like this big.
Well,
and
we could put
everybody's
it
like,
on legal.
"Huh?"
We could put it on legal and get you a
Yeah,
couple more.
it's up to you if you want to, I have no problem. No, actually, I'll get
Those
you
are
everything
hard to
ledger.
look at.
No, those are hard to get in a folder.
Yeah.
They're hard to look at.
Can we reconsider vice chair?
I'll make it as big as you want. Look at this. Where you have vice chair, like 5 seconds and you.
Those giant like ledger sheets like
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know.
Like
You want that for
14
first
by
meeting?
18.
I'm there.
Okay, we're having too much fun, let's adjourn. Is there a motion? Thank you. Second, we're adjourned. Thank you for.
7:42.
Next meeting, third Wednesday of February. I never know.
February- is that ahead of
February
your
16th.
agenda?
Yep.
I put it in. Thanks, folks.
Yeah, all right. Enjoy your Valentine's Day. That's all.
When is,